Okay, we are live. We are alive and kicking. Well, why do we say alive and kicking? Because when you come out of your mother's womb, right? No, it's life. For some reason, that's the way it shows often. Um, for some reason, we come out kicking, right? We're alive and kicking. So I share the screen here or over here? I have to share it here. Live, I go here, share it here.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're recording just to make sure we're
Right.
for the JLI.
All right. A good Tavach, everybody. Good week. Just curious, do you see me or do you just see the what I'm sharing? What do you see?
See what you're sharing, and then you're in the top with all
I'm in
of
the top? Okay.
top bar.
Okay, thank you. So this week's Parsha is every week very special. What's so unique and special this Parsha is because it's dedicated to building a home for God. It is the building of the Mishkan, which the Mishkan is, of course, the portable temple of God that the Jewish people used for 40 years in the desert. And is the forerunner to the Holy Temple that was in the Beis Hamikdash in Jerusalem. And in it, we have the architecture of the Mishkan. We have the materials that are used, the construction details, the vessels, all the furnishings, and so on. And of course, one of the iconic things that is used in the Mishkan, as I'm sure we're familiar with, is there we go. Is a menorah. So let's read about the menorah. Okay. Okay. I see we have more. Okay. I only saw part of the listing, so the way it's set up over here. Okay, so welcome to everybody. I didn't see half of the group.
Quarters. Yes. Perfect.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. It's all good. So let us read from this week's Parsha. And ye shall make a menorah of pure gold. The menorah shall be made of hammered work. Its base and its stem, its goblets, its knobs, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. In other words, it's hammered out from one whole piece of pure gold. Quite a job. In other words, it's not pieced together. It's not like Legos, put pieces together and make it. The 6 branches coming out of its sides, 3 menorah branches from its one side and 3 menorah branches from its second side. 3 decorated goblets on each branch, a knob and a flower, and 3 decorated goblets on one branch, a knob and a flower. So for 6 branches that come out of the menorah. And on the stem of the menorah shall be 4 decorated goblets, its knobs and its flowers, and the knob under the 2 branches from it, and the knob under the 2 branches from it, and the knob under the 2 branches from it. So for the 6 branches that come out of the menorah. Their knobs and their branches shall be one piece with it. All of it shall be a hammered mass of pure gold. And you shall make its lamps 7, and they shall kindle its lamps so that they should shed light towards its face. So what we have is here a very ornate, sophisticated piece of work. 7 branches, right? And if we right, 7 branches. This is the way Maimonides, he pictured it. So you have the 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, the one in the middle, and then you have over here, and as we said, it's hammered out from one block of gold. Then you have flowers. Flowers are like the half, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the half piece, right? Then you have also knobs. Those are the round ones. And then you have goblets over here, right? That are over here. Now, the Torah doesn't give us a picture. The Rambam is the one who made this picture, right? He's the one who sketched it out. Now, is there anything here that you have any question on?
Are they spheres or are they circles, Rabbi?
What?
The round shapes.
The round shapes.
Goblets.
They're
Spheres?
no, these are knobs, right? The knobs are round. The flower type is half size, and these are goblets. Okay, that clear? The triangular, right? So, is there any questions you have on this? Any issues that you have? Anything that is like doesn't sound or seem to fit? Nothing? Well, is this the way you usually see a menorah, that the branches are angled? Or most menorahs you see, they're rounded? Most menorahs you see are rounded, right? So again, the Torah doesn't tell us how to shape it exactly from the written word, but the Rambam doesn't make it rounded. Where does the rounded come from? The only picture that we have of something rounded is actually, and the source for it is Titus's arch in Rome. When the Jews went into exile, it's about 70,000 that were taken in chains from Jerusalem to Rome, the march to Rome. So you have there in Titus's arch the victory of Titus against destroying Jerusalem and bringing back slaves. But there's also pictures of artifacts that he brought, and one of them is the menorah. And the menorah there is rounded. So the Rebbe says, the Sikha this week, that Titus is not the source that we should take, especially someone, defeated the Jews, did harm to the Jews. That's not our source. Our source is a Rambam. Our source is Rashi, and both of them say that it was angular. So most definitely, that's what we should go with. And if you're buying a menorah, to keep with the tradition of what the Rambam and what he depicts, would always be better to get an angular one than get a rounded one. And also the Rebbe suggested that many institutions use the menorah as an emblem. That too should not be rounded, it should be angular. Okay, so that's one thing. But there's another thing here that is raised as a question, and that is the goblets. Look at the goblets. They're inverted, right? They're inverted, exactly. They're upside down. Right. Now, perhaps you might think, well, maybe that's the type of goblet it is, that it's wide on the bottom and it's very narrow at the top. Right? One might think that. But if we look at the Talmud tells us that the goblets of the menorah look like, what did they look like? They look like Alexandrian chalices. What's Alexandrian chalices? Well, who do you think knows best? The Rambam, because he lived in Egypt. So he knows what that is. So Rambam says, right, he says that they are goblets resembling the chalices. They are wide mouths and narrow bases. It's the opposite. So from the picture that we showed, the base is narrow and the mouth is wide. So clearly, then, according to the Rambam, these goblets are upside down. And of course, the question is why? Not only that, it seems to violate a basic tenet that the Talmud tells us on how to do mitzvahs. Talmud tells us one fulfills their obligation when the mitzvahs are used in the manner of their growth. As the verse states, acacia wood standing. So the wood that were the planks for the Mishkan, for the sanctuary, made from this acacia wood, they were made bottom up, the way they grew. Why? Because that's the way you're supposed to do a mitzvah, right? That's the way you need to, the way they naturally grew. What other mitzvah are you familiar with that also you have to do it, the mitzvah in the way it grew? Anybody? Lulav and esrog, right? A lulav, right, grows from the stem on the bottom and the leaves are on top. So therefore, we don't, as a matter of, when we shake it, we don't shake when we go down like this. We don't go down and hit it downwards because that's not the way it grows. You do the mitzvah in the way it grows. Likewise, the esrog. The esrog, the pitum, if you have a pitum, is the top of the esrog. The bottom is the way it grows from the branch, right? So that's the bottom, right? And the is the top. So when you're doing the mitzvah, you have to make sure that the top is on top and the bottom is on bottom, right? That's how you have to do the mitzvah. But here we have now goblets that are upside down, seemingly to be quite the opposite, right? Furthermore, we need to understand, right? The Talmud tells us that they are Alexandrian chalice that are narrow on the bottom and wide on the top. Well, why not a Belgium tulip glass that's wide on the bottom and narrow at top, right? Or a Moscow mule mug that's same on top and bottom, but protrudes in the middle. Obviously, there's something very specific here that the Talmud is telling us. And the Rambam explains why. Why is it so specific? And of course, most importantly, what has that got to do with me and you living today in 2024? What lesson do we take from it? Clear?
Not yet, but
No, clear the question. You don't not clear the answer. Clear all the issues. Yes, the answers are not yet. We haven't provided, so yeah. If it was clear the answers, that would be trouble. Unless you are very, learned. Okay. So, as we mentioned earlier, the Mishkan is a stand-in. What's it a stand-in for? The Beis Hamikdash, right? Because it only lasted 40 years in the desert, and the Beis Hamikdash is an eternal home. How's it eternal? Well, because we still have the walls of the Western Wall, and the area is still holy. It's a eternal. So we need to deepen our understanding of the purpose and the function of the Beis Hamikdash. And then we will have a deeper understanding of the purpose and the function of the menorah. And then it will all become clear. Okay. So if we look at King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, who is the builder of the first holy temple and the first book of Kings, so magnificent structure. And there, it gives us a very cryptic description about the windows of the Beis Hamikdash. Look what it says. They were made shkufim atumim windows for the temple. Nice word, shkufim and atumim. What do they mean? Right. Shkufim means like hashkafa, to see, an outlook, right? And atumim means closed. What does that mean? So you have to remember this before ancient times. Windows back then, and windows were like in a thick wall, right? They're in a thick wall. So they were narrow on the outside of the wall and more on an angle opened up on the inside. And this was for two reasons. The basic reason, the very simple reason is simple, that to let in, you wanted to let light in, but you didn't want to let in animals or anybody else for that matter, right? Or anybody else. So if you look at, castles from a long time ago, not modern ones, because afterwards they got windows. But before there were windows, right? I mean, not windows, glass coverings on the windows. Windows are windows, right? Windows without the glass, right? They had windows without a glass. So they had nothing to protect them from animals entering in. So they made very small slits. And then, but it was wedged on the inside more, so the light would dispense and disperse, right? More readily to the entire area, right? That's how they made it. Also, to fight a battle, they could, it'd be difficult for the enemy to get in, and they were able to take their arrow and from there shoot, and just had enough of an opening to be able to defeat their enemy, right? So this is what the Talmud is saying, that that windows for the temple were shkufim atumim. And I explained to you, not shkufim atumim, I explained to you the way they're normally made, right? But the Midrash explains to us the following. And somebody makes windows, they make them wide on the inside, the way I explained, and narrow on the outside. Why? So that it should be able to draw light in. But the windows of the Beis Hamikdash were not like this. Rather, they were wide on the outside and narrow on the inside. They were the opposite. Narrow on the inside and wide on the outside. So like the goblets of the menorah, right? The Beis Hamikdash windows were fashioned the wrong way, right? But the Midrash explains to us, why was this? Why? So that the light should spread outward to the holy temple and illuminate the world. The windows of the Beis Hamikdash were not for light. Right? Because what is the Beis Hamikdash for? It's God's home, right? It was to spread light to the outside, right? What is the source of light for the world? Beis Hamikdash. So the Beis Hamikdash needs to spread its light to the world, right? Of course, we're talking about spiritual light that needs to be, but it's expressed in the architecture of the Beis Hamikdash, that it is made in such a way that it should spread light to the world, right? As the Talmud tells us, does God require its light? Didn't the children of Israel travel 40 years in the desert exclusively by his light? Rather, its light is a testimony to the world, that the divine presence rests among Israel, and in other words, we're the source of light that's from the holy temple, and we are the source to bring that light to the rest of the world. The rest of the world should recognize that. Clear? So, okay, now we understand the windows in the Beis Hamikdash, that they were the opposite way that naturally light is, windows are made, because windows are made, generally speaking, to bring in light. Beis Hamikdash, they were to bring out light to the world. Okay. By extension, the menorah's entire purpose is also to shine light outwards.
I just found this randomly. Thank you.
From this week's Parsha.
Yes.
What's not random? What Chumash is that? Very Catholic. Oh. Okay, very good. So, but this brings us back to the goblets. The goblets were upside down instead of the manner in which they are natural state, right? Was the right side up. But what is really the natural state of a goblet?
Narrow at the bottom.
Well, let's understand. A barrel, what's its purpose?
Contain.
To contain. A barrel, its purpose is to contain the wine, the oil, whatever it contains, the pickles, right? Whatever it is to contain, that's its purpose. Well, what's the main purpose of a cup? What's its purpose? To contain? Really? Anybody else? Anybody else? What's the main purpose of a goblet, of a cup? No one has any?
To get rid of someone's thirst.
Right. It is, speaking of, excuse me, I'm getting some water. It's not working? Oh, just forget it. Forget it. Okay. No. I needed that for a prop. I don't have a prop, but I think Tim has a prop. Yeah, Tim has a prop. Let me see. What are you doing with that? Chaim. Oh, look what he's doing. The purpose of the cup is not to hold water. It's to drink from it. The holding of the water is only in order that you can drink from it. That's the whole purpose, right? It's to serve, right? So really, its purpose is to be upside down, to serve another. The cup is there to serve our thirst. Got it? So a menorah's whole purpose is to shine outside into the world, right? That's its purpose. It's only natural that the goblet then would be upside down, because its whole purpose is to bring the light of God from the menorah and to share it and pour that light into someone else's cup, right? And by the way, in Yiddish, cup is what? In Yiddish, a cup. This is a
Head.
cup.
Head.
A head, to the head. To shine the lights into another cup, to pour into one cup, goblet, into a cup, into a head, into a brain, right? Let's take the Rebbe's words from this week's Parsha, this week's Sicha. When the cup's purpose is for holding liquid, then its natural state is for the base to be on the bottom and the opening to be upright on top. But the cups of the menorah symbolize the idea of irrigating and illuminating the world. So their natural state is the opposite way. With the opening on bottom and the base on top, we turn the glass upside down so that we can pour from it. The menorah's light was intended to illuminate the world with its spirituality, which was on a spiritually lower level than the temple. As such, the natural state of its cups was to be upside down, pouring out light. Wow. So we answered one question, right? Why are the cups upside down? Right? But the question that we did not answer is why these kind of goblets that were Alexandrian goblets, why that they're narrow on the bottom and wide on the top? Why not just the same size, as most goblets that you have, right, are the same. That most glasses you have are the same on the bottom, the same on the top. What was the purpose of that? So for that, let us appreciate from what King Solomon said, Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, the person's soul is God's lamp. Right? Downstairs. Shiv is downstairs. Downstairs. The Shiv is downstairs. So, you ever notice that I shuckle? Right, Tim, I see you're doing it. I don't know if it's like contagious from me. All right. I don't know if anybody else is doing it. I see one thumb is doing it. Liba's thumb is doing it, shuckling. Why the shuckle? Because our soul is like a flame. A flame flickers, right? It goes back and forth, a flame, right? It flickers. It's known that the soul derives pleasure from lighting candles. It becomes excited when the enjoyment of the light or itself is a piece of light. Therefore, it is drawn after its kind, light, even though one is a physical flame and the soul is pure, spiritual, and abstract light. Nevertheless, both are a type of light. This is why King Solomon compares a soul to a light. As the verse states, a person's soul is God's lamp. There's a strong parallel here between the two. The godly light, they both exude, right? Just like in the Beis Hamikdash, the menorah, your soul is also a menorah that has goblets, meaning the capacity to shine a light onto others. The soul's menorah is upside down, right? Your soul's menorah, just like the menorah, the goblets are upside down, your goblets are upside down. In a constant outpour, that's the natural state of the soul. What does that mean? The natural state of the animal soul is, what's in it for me? The cup wants to fill itself up, to be more fulfilled, to have more of life. Another great, beautiful experience, another wonderful teachings, right? That's the animal soul. That's what it wants, to have more. Now, if you have a refined animal soul, right? So it wants more Torah. That's amazing. But it wants more for itself. So the kind of cup that it is a right side up cup. But the godly soul, that's a lamp of God, is an upside down cup because it's not about itself. It's about what it gives to another, not what it gets, but what it gives. Very powerful, right? Meaning, my natural state of being from the soul, the godly soul point of view, is giving light, rather than receiving light. You hear that? That's very powerful. Now, with this, we can understand why the goblet is also narrow on the bottom and wide on top. Because narrow on the bottom means what I receive. I'm narrow in what I get. My light, personally, may be narrow, may be limited. But when I turn it upside down, what I give is not limited. It's wide. Ooh, this is very profound. In other words, a person might think to themselves, hey, I just started my journey in Jewish life, right? How much am I capable of making an impact, to sharing the light? I barely get the light myself. I barely tantalize by it. I barely understand it. Because you're narrow, that's okay. And the whole point is here, even though you're narrow, that doesn't mean what you give has to be narrow. What you give, when you turn it upside down, is going to be a huge flow of divine light that you can impact someone else's life. As the Rebbe shares with us in this week's Sikha, it can be that with regard to our own personal spiritual journey, our base is narrow and limited. This could be at the beginning of our journey or even later on for whatever reason. But when it comes to influencing another, and especially when it comes to influencing the world at large to make it a home for God, we must know that we must engage in this service without any limitations. Our state must be that of a wide open, upside down goblet. Wow. Even though the Talmud tells us you have to adorn yourself before you can adorn someone else. You have to beautify yourself. You have to have the light of Torah and mitzvahs in your life before you can give it to someone else. That's a general rule. However, in particular, because we're standing before the times of redemption, we're standing before Mashiach's coming, and therefore, what is necessary is what the world needs, not so much what I need. Not so much what I need. And therefore, we have a capability now of doing for the world, to bring godliness to the world in a manner that has never existed before. And we see that in social media. We see that, the impact that, one person can make, the impact of one show tonight, one game, that makes, those commercials get seen by so many, and hopefully makes a good impact about our people. But we live in a time now that a little nobody can make a great impact. Now, for the most part, that impact might be made in a negative way today, but that's not our job. Is to take the light that we've been given. Even the light might be very narrow in what I've received in the teachings, but we have to know that we are capable of taking that light and truly transforming another person's life, transforming the world. So we need to take action. As the Rebbe says, just as the work on improving ourselves, so must we engage with others as well. We must not rationalize that I still have plenty to do to work on myself, knowing myself and my flaws, so that what right do I have to influence others? Hey, I'm a little nobody. What right do I have to influence others? Rather, as the Rebbe Rashab said, we have no idea what still needs to be accomplished in the task of preparing the world for the era of Mashiach, so we must not make any rationalizations. Any opportunity we encounter, we must immediately seize. So again, the menorah's goblets were narrow. The light might be limited in our lives. We are, though, meant to take that goblet, our soul, and what we've experienced, what we've learned, what we've been inspired, and we have to turn it from receiving into upside down to give whatever you have. And what happens is very often we have what's called self-doubt. You know, am I capable? Can I do this? You're capable and you can do it. The only question is if you want to. College student once approached the Rebbe in the middle of a Hasidic gathering to greet him with a l'chaim. The Rebbe turned and asked him if he was involved with encouraging and helping his fellow students to put tefillin on every day. But Rebbe admitted the young man, I myself don't put tefillin on every day. Why is that their fault? Replied the Rebbe with a smile. In other words, just because you're not doing everything the way you should is not a reason. It's not a reason why others, huh? Right. Hold on. Where is that?
There you go. Close this and bring them. Close this. The screen up to the middle. Yes.
Oh, there we go. All right. So we all have self-doubt. That how much can I contribute? What kind of significant change can I make in another person's life? That is our evil inclination talking. Our job is just to do. Pour from the cup. Now pour wisely. If you're going to pour very quickly, you might overflow someone else's cup. As we said in Yiddish, cup means head. It might be too much. So you got to be careful how much you give, but it might be a little bit, might be a little more, a little less, right? But the point is that you're constantly aflow. As I experienced in my own life, as you know, I told the story before, as a 17-year-old and a fellow student who was religious, approached me and engaged me. And, he was just a 17-year-old like I was. But as a result, that impact was great. And, one thing led to another. So you don't know the impact that you can make. And all we need to do is just pour, not make a calculation. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be real. It means that you're not pouring into someone else and giving to someone else in their life so you could feel good about your accomplishment or to feel, successful in whatever you're doing. We have to do it because we care for the other person. We care. We're empathetic. We see that their cup is empty. Their cup is empty. So of empathy, we care, we have empathy. So therefore we empty our cup. And sometimes it means even to empty, I mean, in the end, you don't lose because whatever, it's more like the light of the soul, right? The flame of the soul, when you create another flame, the original flame doesn't diminish in any way. So it doesn't diminish us. On the contrary, it's going to give us something much greater than we started off with. Our problem is that we think small of ourselves. And that's the whole reason why they were these Alexandrian goblets that were narrow, to tell us hey, okay, so you don't have that much. It doesn't matter. There's something inside there. And if you pour it out, you will impact someone's life. You will make a difference. Just share that. Share that warmth, share that goodness, share that wisdom, share that Torah knowledge, that act of chesed, of kindness, and you'll change the world for good. Any questions? All right. Who here is going to come to 8 o'clock?
Me.
All right. Okay, great. Okay, folks. I'll
Thank
see
you,
you
Rob.
soon. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.